we are delving into the world of sewing with satin. Satin is quite a tricky fabric to work with, so we are getting a little bit more advanced, a little bit technical. It can be tricky, but take it slow, and with these tips and tricks, hopefully you will feel a little bit more confident to try your hand at sewing with satin. Before I continue, I just want to say a huge thank you to my Sew Hayley Jane box subscribers. Without you, these videos just would not be possible. Okay, let's get into satin. Satin fabric is beautiful, it's luxurious, it's slinky, and it can feel amazing, but it can be really tricky. And I'm going to be really honest with you here. I haven't actually sewn much with satin before, so I myself have been on a journey whilst making this up for this video, but I feel very proud that I have done it now. So this is a Fabric Godmother viscose satin made into the named patterns Laya dressing gown, both of which were in September's luxury Sew Hayley Jane boxes. So I have made the pattern in the fabric so that I can help you on your journey. So I have been doing lots of research about satin fabrics and the different types, and it seems that there are two main types of satin: viscose satin and polyester. Both types of satin fabric have the similarities. They have the characteristic shiny side. It's made using a satin weave, which is what gives it this shine. It's very drapey. It's perfect for things like evening wear, night wear, dressing gowns, even some slinky lingerie, things like that. It's perfect, but there are differences obviously between viscose and polyester. Viscose satin, which is what this one is, can come in a range of different weights, different sort of qualities. This one is 170 grams per square meter, which is on probably the heavier side of a viscose satin. They then go down to like 90 GSM, so those are very lightweight, very slinky, perfect for like an evening blouse or a cami top or something like that. The viscose content in these fabrics makes it very comfortable to wear. It gives it a bit more breathability than a polyester satin, which is slightly less breathable, but is perfect for things like jacket linings, accessories, a very lovely headscarf, things that maybe aren't so close to your skin, like a cami top or something like that would be perfect in a polyester satin to, you know, let this area breathe a little bit. When I was doing my research, I was thinking, is there such a thing as a cotton satin? There is. It's more commonly known as a sateen. It isn't exactly the same. It's a much heavier weight fabric, and it has a much more dull sheen to it. People use cotton sateen for things like structured dresses, trousers, but also for upholstery fabrics, I believe, like curtains, things like that. Gives a nice sheen, but it's a dull sheen. So it's still lovely, but it's not shimmery. So within these categories of viscose satin and polyester satin, you can then get these like subcategories of the types of fabrics, slightly different qualities. So you can get a crepe backed satin, which is basically, as it says, one side has this shiny satin side and the other side is a crepe back side, but it's reversible. Then you can get a double faced, which is glossy on both sides. And then you can get something called a Duchess satin, which is a much more heavier weight fabric and is more commonly used for bridal gowns, evening gowns, ball gowns, that kind of thing. It's beautiful. Okay, let's get on to sewing with satin. If it is completely new to you, if you haven't ever sewn with satin before, I recommend thinking quite carefully about what you want to make from it. I wouldn't make anything that was really fiddly, that has a lot of seams. I would do something like a dressing gown. This has lots of long, straight seams. There was still some technical things to sort of get my head around, but it was simple enough. There was only a couple of pattern pieces. Whatever you choose to do, just take your time, okay? This is not going to be a rushed project. This is going to be a project to take your time over. Just breathe with it, okay? You can totally do this. You have got this. I just want to take a quick break here to let you know about the competition that I am running on YouTube and socials. I'll pop a link below. Basically, you can win a Janome sewing machine like this one I have here if you follow the link and do all the things that it says. It's basically follow me on YouTube, follow me on Facebook. If you follow me on YouTube and subscribe to my channel, you get 5 extra entries to win a Janome sewing machine. So pop over to the link where it's all explained in much better detail. As with every fabric, always pre-wash it to ensure any shrinkage happens before you cut into it. You can wash it on a regular 30-degree cycle. If you're worried though, you could use maybe a delicate cycle. Either is fine, and then hang to dry. I wouldn't put it in the tumble dryer. And then you're going to need to iron it. Now, I recommend doing a test iron because the steam and the water from the iron can leave marks. It can sort of scorch fabric. So just do a couple of tests first to make sure that your fabric can handle it. And if you can, try and iron on the reverse of the fabric, whichever the sort of duller side of the fabric is. So with the viscose satin, I wouldn't sew on the shiny side. It has more of a dull side on the underneath. So I ironed on that with just a regular setting and it has been absolutely fine. If you are worried or if you find that your iron is leaving marks on your fabric, you can use a pressing cloth. So you could just get a piece of muslin, a lightweight cotton tea towel, or I just tend to use a fat quarter. Just grab a fat quarter and use that in between your iron and the fabric. Put your pressing cloth and just use that to give your fabric a little bit of extra protection. Lots of people swear by spray starch. What you do is you spray down your fabric, you get it kind of damp on both sides, leave it to dry, and then iron it, and it makes it a little bit stiffer. So I have some examples here. This is a polyester satin that we had in the boxes a couple of months ago. This is as it is without any spray starch. And then this one has been starched. And you can see it is a little bit stiffer, a little bit less drapey. Once you then have sewn up your garment, pop it back in the wash and that starch will come back out again and it no bother at all. Again, do test first, do a test swatch first. So cutting out your fabric. If you have a big space on the floor and you've got carpet, using the carpet will help to give a little bit of friction and help keep your fabric still. My other big tip is to sew on the flat. So don't fold your fabric in half to sew your 2 pieces. Sew it flat, use some chalk to draw around your pattern piece and then flip your pattern piece over so that you've got that mirrored piece that you need and draw around that and then cut it out. That I have found to be the easiest because the fabric slips so much. When you take your pattern piece off and you look at what you've drawn with the chalk, you can kind of see whether or not it has shifted loads or if it looks okay. As I said again, I wouldn't sew anything that was very fitted with a satin because, at least not until you are more confident, because of this issue. Dressing gowns. Practice with a dressing gown. Honestly, I feel very, very slinky in this. I love it. I nearly forgot to talk to you about block interfacing. Block interfacing is such a good technique for satin fabrics. If you have to cut out, say, facing pieces, neckline facings, and then you need to cut out the interfacing, because the satin is so slippery, quite often you'll cut the 2 pieces out and then they won't properly match up because the satin has shifted slightly, and it's a real pain in the butt. So what you can do is cut out a piece of your fabric big enough to fit all the pieces that need interfacing on, cut out the same size interfacing, fuse it onto your fabric, and then cut the pieces out from just the one piece, the fabric that has been interfaced. Then you will get perfectly sized, shaped pieces without any wobbly seams, and you don't have that apart from anything else. It then means you don't have to cut the things out twice. You can just cut them out as a single layer. It's a winner. It's an absolute winner. Definitely do that one. Right, on to the actual sewing now. So one big tip is to sew with a super sharp needle. I have used these Prim Microtex needles and they just glide through the fabric beautifully. If you can, I would go for a Microtex needle. Just helps to stop the fabric snagging. So I have sewn all of this with a Microtex needle and I haven't spotted any snagging at all. You can use a regular polyester Gutermann sew all thread, or if you're feeling really fancy, you could get a silk thread or a cotton thread. I think any of them would do fine. The other thing I have invested in for sewing this project is some super fine pins. I just wanted to take extra care. This is such a luxurious fabric, so I really wanted to make sure that there were no snags at all. So I used these extra fine pins and goodness me, they are a thing of beauty. They just slide straight through the fabric, no catching, again, no snagging at all. I kind of want to use these for everything now. They're amazing. But because they are super fine, they are really hard to pick up. So that is a consideration as well. The other option, if you don't want to use pins, is to use these little fabric clips. They just clip the seam allowances of the fabric together to hold it in place. It is going to slip around a little bit. If you want to, you can invest in a walking foot. I haven't ever used a walking foot. I feel like I should invest in one now, but they are quite pricey and I still managed to get away with sewing it without a walking foot. So I might just, but I feel like it's one of those things, if I do invest in a walking foot one day, I'm going to be like, this is amazing. Why have I not done this sooner? Anyway, let me know in the comments, do you have a walking foot? Is it worth it? Let us know. Next, we need to talk about finishing your fabrics. So satin does fray quite a lot, so you definitely need to finish properly. An overlocker if you have one, or I would really recommend going the extra step and sewing a French seam. I have talked about French seams a lot before, so just quickly, a French seam is where you start by sewing your fabric wrong sides together, then you iron the seam, press the fabric around the seam and do another seam so that those equal whatever seam allowance your pattern suggests. And then the raw edges of your seam are all enclosed in between those two seams. Press it all, press the seam to the back, and you've got a beautifully finished seam. So there you have it. Those are a few tips and tricks for sewing with satin. Let me know in the comments if you have any other tips that you think we should all know about. I would love to hear them. And if you haven't ever sewn with satin before, but you're now feeling a bit more confident to give it a go, let me know that as well. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to go and enter my sewing machine competition. Have a fantastic day everyone, and I will see you all really soon. Bye.